a lot of things that brought on mental health for me were self-esteem. I was so low, like I did not value, appreciate myself. I thought so ugly.
Sugar, sugar cane, something with sweet like sugar cane. Sugar, sugar cane, something with sweet.
So everything was down to looks to me. Anything that happened, any failure, down to the way I looked, is it this? And then when I try and think about it, it's just because I've never felt appreciated. So it was just horrible. And then when I started dating, men, oh my god, they definitely brought that insecure out more more and more. But that's my fault as well, because I was definitely going out with people for the wrong purposes, instead of investing in myself, which I really didn't even know too much about then. I didn't know how to. It's easy when you hear people say you need to love yourself, you need to love yourself, but it's hard when you don't know how. Like, how do I love myself? What is loving yourself? What do you do to love yourself? Because it's easy to talk about loving yourself, but what do you do to love yourself ultimately? How do I do it? And it was easy for people to say that, but I didn't know how to do it. So loving myself was, everything was just involved with men. Everything was intertwined with men, wanting approval, wanting validation, wanting this, wanting to hear this, needing to hear this, wanting to be treated this way. Almost trying to make people be a person that they're not. I think that ultimately put me in really bad situations, which I can't blame a lot of the people for, because it should never have really been anything in the first place. But I just needed it, you know. And then I went into depression, and then bullying as well, and then online comments when I would post things, and it just puts you in, it put me in such a dark space for a number of years, to be honest. So to see how I am now, it should give anyone hope, knowing that anything can turn around. And I don't want to speak too much on mental health, only because I'm not a healthcare professional. I can just talk based on my experiences and what you should not allow. And I think one of the biggest things is speaking. When I started speaking about certain things that I've been through in my past, certain things that affected me, and I started openly speaking about it, it literally became like, there's so much of a release when you talk, and when you just speak about what you've been through, and you don't feel like it's just, and the person that you speak to has to be receptive. So those type of people, they just need to listen. I don't need you to say anything, just let me vent, please. And then once you're talking and you're going on and on, oh gosh, that feels so good. I go on and on and on and on and on. You just feel so relieved. You have to feel in a... You can't be... It's very important who you keep around you, because it's only people that really have your best interest that will be able to really be your guides through when you need to speak about things and when you need true advice. Because if you have the wrong people around you, they'll just lead you in the worst path, and it will just make you want to hurt yourself even more, because now you feel trapped, you feel judged, you don't feel like you've got anyone around you, and that is the worst place to feel. And the worst place to be is to feel like you're isolated and that you're alone and that no one understands. You haven't got no one that you can talk to. You don't feel like you have any support. That is the most awful place that you could ever be in. Luckily for myself, I was always able to pick myself up from situations, because it's just something I've always learned to do. I've always self-analyzed, so I always overthink, but I overthink about myself, and I overthink about the things that I want and how I'm acting and what could cause certain things, and it's like I always make a summary of certain ways that I feel and what's transpired, and then at the end of it, what's the resolution? Because I can't keep feeling like this. So what do I need to do for me not to keep feeling like this? And when you're so used to negative, that's when you start thinking of suicide or self-harming. Tried all of that, and it's just terrible. And then when you start to feel more positive about yourself, the resolution is going to be stuff like, okay, fuck this. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm going out. I'm gonna do nana. I'm just gonna ignore this person. Fuck you. I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm just gonna watch my program. I'm gonna eat my Doritos. Like, it's so funny how things turn around, but to get to that point, to get to the point of suicidal thoughts and self-harming and going away from thinking that anything that you went through, any childhood trauma, was your fault, anything that's caused your depression is your fault, the way that you feel about yourself is your fault. But sometimes the way we feel about ourselves can be even more self-inflicted than anything that we've gone through. So we kind of pile on things, or pile on negative upon negative upon negative upon negative upon negative, to the point where it's like you're just comfortable being negative. So all you know is negative. The first thought in your head will be negative. The outcome of something will be negative. You don't see no resolution, anything. Everything is just negative. And then you try to convince yourself and saying that it's reality when it's not. Because reality isn't negative. Everything you do and everything you go through is a learning curve. There's always a lesson to be learned. And no matter how hard it is, no matter how horrible it is, no matter how painful some memories may seem to be, you should always be able to take a positive lesson from everything. Getting to that point isn't easy, but it does definitely start with yourself, and it starts with you not victim blaming. It's very easy to victim blame. When you go through shit and when things happen to you, there's nothing you can do about it. Some things just happen because of other people's senseless, disgusting behavior. When someone's being raped, I don't understand how that could ever be your fault. When you're being abused, I don't understand how you can ever be a fault. If you're in a domestic violence situation and a man puts his hands on you, I don't see how that could ever be your fault, because you cannot control someone else's actions, you know? So it's easy to inflict pain when people kind of put you in that. It's easy to inflict bad feelings upon yourself when, in a sense, that's all you've ever known, and you become compliant, you become accustomed to being treated badly. And so it's easy to be negative, it's easy to go into depression, it's easy for things to be happening to you and you not realizing it and you keeping it inside, because you're not made to feel that you can openly talk about things. You're not made to feel that your feelings are worth anything, because you've allowed because someone has treated you a certain type of way, because someone has made you feel a certain type of way, and it makes you feel like you're not relevant, and then it makes you start questioning, like, why am I here? When things don't go right, it literally, you might just not get a job reply, and suddenly, like, what's the fucking point of me doing anything? Why am I here? Why am I existing? Like, everything just goes down into the ultimate negative. Like, you need to understand that you can have a bad day. Because you have a bad day, it doesn't mean you have a bad life. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's always hope. You always have to allow, if you want anything to prosper, it's really important that you always see the good for yourself and the greater good, and know that, and know, not think, not wish, not hope, but know everything is going to be, oh Lord, I didn't want that in the shot. Everything is going to be okay. you have to know that everything is going to be, oh god, this camera angle is like, you just have to know that everything is going to be okay, because it's hard to stop bad thoughts, and it's hard to it's hard to feel like you're worthy. It's really hard, and I do have certain days where I feel like that, but that's just normal. Like, I don't go into my whole life being awful. Sometimes I just feel shitty, and it's okay to feel shitty. But you need to learn, it's the learning how to snap out of it, you know. But it's very important to, I would say, keep your circle small, and really filter the people that you have in your life and that you involve yourself with, and just keep those. But you would know when people are really there and really rooting for you, you know, really there because they generally really care about you. And talk. I think the key to opening up about mental illness is being able to have the platform of having an open discussion about it. We should be able to talk about what we feel, what we've been through, any bad feelings we have, any concerns we have about ourselves or our mental health, on an open canvas, without without feeling like we should be ashamed, or feeling like we're going to be judged, or feeling less than, just because of people's ignorance and they're not understanding. Some people are just selfish, and I just feel like therapy is like the most amazing thing. I haven't been through it myself because I didn't need to go through it myself, but I would definitely want to get it in the future though. I definitely would love, especially with the next relationship I get into, I would want pre-marital counseling and all that stuff. I just think it's so important, like, to have an amazing, any way that you can improve communication I'm all for it. And that's what I mean, speaking to someone like this, you don't get no better than speaking to a counsellor or a therapist anyway, because you're speaking to someone in confidence. You don't even know this person from Adam. You don't have to worry about being judged. It's their profession to listen and guide you to a better you. So I don't understand why people, especially in the black community, find counselling like such a taboo, or seeing a therapist. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. So if you feel like you need to seek help, you feel like you need to speak to someone, speak to someone. Speak. That's the only way that you'd ever be able to overcome anything that you're feeling, or get a grip on what it is that you're actually suffering with, because there's a lot more things than just depression. There's schizophrenia, there's so much things. Don't allow it to consume you and make you who you are. No. Before being gay or anything, I'm Junior. That's what I am. That's who I am. That's everything in one. And yes, I happen to be a gay male. And no, you know, like, don't allow titles to consume who you are, but allow them to have their rightful place in your life. And this is it. This is what it is. And you have to get to a place where you wouldn't change certain things. Just certain stuff in my past, boy, I've been through some stuff. But you know what? I wouldn't change it, because I don't know what difference something would have made. Like, you changing one thing in your past could have been detrimental to something else that was meant to happen after, that might not even allow you to be here right now. That's why it's important not to have regrets. You have to embrace things that happen, and you have to learn to be like, you know, that's what it is, that moment, what happened then, how this happened, how I was treated in this place, how I felt at this place, how I was at this point. None of that defines me. That does not make me who I am today. It's just an aspect of my life that happened, and I've evolved from it. This is what I learned from it. There it is. People need to learn to put things in their rightful place, You can't keep rehashing things that happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even a year ago, or anything. I mean, if it's for purposes of you doing talks, you're doing speeches, you're motivating people, you're letting people know how you felt at certain points so they can move on with their lives and whatever, go for it. But if you're doing it for just self-pity's sake, I don't understand. Like, then you at that point you're the only one being detrimental to yourself, and you're the only one that's being bad to yourself at that point, because why would you keep punishing yourself over and over again when you know you cannot be held accountable for something that you had no control over? I'm not going to do it. Jesus. I saw certain things. What was I meant to do as a child? So I'm meant to allow that to fix me in my adulthood? No, no, and no. What was I meant to do? Oh, you know when it gets tight. It's getting tight. So I think I was just blabbering on a lot in this video, but the three main things I want you to take from this video is, if you're suffering, if you feel like you are suffering with mental health and you're scared to speak about it, you feel ashamed, you feel isolated, the first steps into that is to talk to someone. You don't have to go through things alone. If you want to DM me, knock yourself out. Just make sure that you speak, because the more you harvest things inside, it just gets worse and worse, and it eats at you. It eats at you, and it has no place doing that. There you have a whole life to live. You have a purpose here. Everyone has a purpose. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but every single person has a purpose in this world. And it's for you to find your purpose. But you're not going to find that if you're just harboring yourself in negativity. Don't allow people to make you feel less than. No one deserves that much in your life, to be making you feel less than who you are. You need to own who the fuck you are. You need to be proud of who the fuck you are. If you need to do something, get it done. Never speak. Don't ever silence your voice for anybody else. Suffering because of other people. No way, man. Life is too precious. Too precious. And we get reminded of that at the really horrible times when we're losing someone, when someone's dying, when someone's sick. When you read something, when you see things. Life is so precious, man. Talk to people. Talk. And don't ever be ashamed. Don't ever be ashamed. I lived in shame for so many years over everything. Over who I am, the way I was, what I am, even being Nigerian to some aspects. Because people would make me feel like I'm a fake. They always call me a fake Nigerian because I don't speak Yoruba. So I didn't know who I was because people were kind of robbing me of that title. So it took me a while to own everything I am and who I am, and be proud of who I am and love who I am, and constantly feed goodness to myself, because you come before anybody. You always have to make yourself a priority in this life, because trust me, happiness is not dependent on anybody else but yourself. If you can't even make yourself happy, then you're definitely not going to find it in anything else in just general life. So it's really important that you invest in yourself, you take care of yourself, and you love yourself enough to be like, you know what, I need to do this, I need to speak about this, I need to speak to somebody, I need to get better for myself. I think that's the biggest thing about it in our community, is just shame. Or making it feel like it's just in your head. Very annoying, honestly. My God. But I do hope that there was some parts of this video that made sense, because I always talk, you know, sometimes I just got off topic. You know, my videos aren't ever planned, so I just sit down and talk about what I feel. But I do hope that this helped, and I love you guys so much, and thank you for your endless support. your encouragement all the time. I appreciate you, and I shall see you in the next video.
Sugar cane, something way sweet like sugar cane. Sugar.